Hi, Bogang.
Hi, Bex. Quickly just going to put up the screen.
Okay. I think Luba is on the other side.
Okay. Oh.
Guys, the email isn't gone out, eh? And Charity is just going straight to voicemail on both her phones. There you go, kid. You on mute?
Yeah.
No, emails have not gone out, yeah?
I see. And I can't get hold of Charity.
Same here. Single points of fail.
Yeah. Angelique must just calm down. No, I don't like it when people comment from the outside.
So I see Tembokutle is also here. So just from a panelist, who am I putting on the panelist? Should I leave her that side or should I bring her over?
Yeah, remember we're just doing, yeah, carry on, Bex.
No, I was going to bring it over. I mean, she's part of the organizing team. Bring it over.
Yeah. Okay.
I've asked Tunzi and Takani to join at 10:02 so that we've got time to bring them over also.
Okay.
Bokang, what are you working on now?
I'm just getting the banner for the banner which you're going to have opening. So as what's on the screen now.
I can't see anything on the screen.
Oh, that's what I'm working on.
Oh,
I just want to ask Linda if he's got access to that connect email address, and maybe
Please, and send it
we
out.
can send it from there directly. Yeah. Okay, guys, I see that email has now gone out.
Yeah, just saw it now.
Okay. Yeah. A stressful situation. No, that's the wrong one. Bokang.
Bokang.
Please. That's the Nespers one.
Hey guys, you hey, you're gonna have me heart beating fast before.
No, sorry, my apologies.
Delete that thing, please. Don't.
Yeah, please, guys. Remember, some people may
Close the
start
window.
joining. Some people may start joining early, so we don't want to be showing things. And for me, my interest now is I want to make sure, Bokang, we got the right presentation for the right speaker. The one for Mtunzi and the one for Takani. Okay.
Cool.
So whilst you are finding those things, tell me once you have found the picture the right picture that you must put up.
Okay.
Greetings and warm welcome to all of you on the call. I just see a lot of people still signing in. I just think we'll give them another minute, a minute and a half, then we'll start our proceedings. Thank you very much. Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and a warm welcome to all of you. Just before we start, if I may ask our technical team to maybe play a video that will give us an introduction to these proceedings. Thank you. From the technical point of view, I think apologies for that. Bokang, do you want to maybe start the video again?
Let's not go back to normal. For too long, normal was accepting a rapidly increasing unemployment rate. It was overburdening workloads and small reaching business connections. Normal was set working hours and working in isolation. The business world has never been so ready for change, so we have decided to build a new normal. The Devier ecosystem brings recruiters and digital talent together through one platform, combining skills, tool sets, best practice, and methodologies to meet the demands of a new digital revolution. It's more than a job. It's my future. It's self-sufficient. It's really my future.
Lobes, you're on mute.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. Greetings again and a warm welcome to all of you. Special mention to our staff members, our clients who are on the call, our partners, particularly our partners across the continent, and those that are joining us from abroad in the US and in India, Bangalore, our family and friends who are with us today, and most importantly, the youth of our beloved continent. Also special mention to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Lesotho, who have graced us with their presence this morning. I really want to thank you all for joining us today for this important conversation. My name is Lubabalo Dyanki. I am the co-founder and executive director of the digital firm Divie. As a young business born in the cloud age, we have a purpose as a business to help propel Africa into the global and digital economy by assisting businesses to build capability and capacity for digital transformation. I think all of you, as you gather here this morning, you will all agree that with COVID-19 upon us, the world has changed and probably will never be the same again. And therefore, as we gather here today, we need to think about our future and start now to build a digital future for ourselves. Similarly, the world of work is really undergoing an extraordinary revolution, a time where unemployment, particularly in the African continent and among young people, is at an all-time high. We therefore, as Africans, would need to create more digital natives to participate in this global economy and embrace the disruption of work and tackle this new normal. We really believe as a company that through smart application of technology, Africa can really make its future a less daunting one and become more rewarding for all of us. Today, we are launching our Talent as a Service platform, and for all our young people across the continent who have gone through our skills programs, really get the opportunity to showcase their talent and potential to all employers globally and be able to advance their careers into the future. On the other hand, of course, we have organizations across all industries whom at the touch of a button can really sign up on our platform and have access to a growing pool of specialist digital skills, allowing them to effortlessly scale their talent needs when they need to. Ladies and gentlemen, we do have a brief agenda for today that hopefully will provoke a lot of conversations and debate, and most importantly, spark action amongst all of us to really begin to start our journey for our digital future. We have two exciting guests joining us today, and I will introduce our guests as they come forward to actually present. Professor Mthunzi Mdwaba and Ms. Tagani Chivase from Microsoft. So really, really exciting, and looking forward to some of the insights that they will be sharing with us today. We have also, as part of our agenda, planned a demo for our Talent as a Service platform, where Bex Makolile, who's also the co-founder of the business, will take us through this exciting piece. We've also made some time to get to know a little bit about the talent that has gone through our training programs over the past year or so, and what they've been up to and where they come from and their ambitions for the future. We will take questions after each speaker. We recommend that we will take about 2 questions after each speaker, and we will reserve the rest of the questions towards the end through a Q&A. There is a Q&A a message box where you can actually drop your questions, and we will make sure that your questions then are answered by the panel towards the end. A quick reminder, of course, is that this webinar is being recorded and will be made available to all of us towards the end. To that end, I'd like to welcome our first guest speaker, Professor Mthunzi Mdwaba. He really needs no introduction. He's a veteran of the industry, and he speaks to us today as the Vice President of the International Organization of Employers, and also as the Vice Chair of the International Labour Organization. For those who don't know, the IOE is the sole representative body of business, you know, in addressing employment policy issues and debates that are taking place across the United Nations, the International Labour Organization, the G20, and other important global platforms. And of course, this year they are celebrating an important year, celebrating 100 years of their existence. And they've been shaping and driving this global agenda, discussing employment and social policies. Prof, welcome, and thank you for gracing us with your presence.
Thank you very much, Bakso. I really appreciate the invitation. I do appreciate the opportunity to speak at this launch. I do also just want to mention before I start that in addition to the countries you've mentioned of the US and India, I also have colleagues that have connected, one from Geneva, two in fact from Geneva, Louis Rodrigo and Agustina Morni, as well as Amadou Sako, who's connecting from Paris today. So they are part of the IOE team that you've already spoken about. I think we could move right to the second slide, which will cover some of the elements that you've already mentioned. But I think just to give clarity for everyone that is with us, I see that you have currently about 67 participants, some of them who I'm sure have never heard of the IOE or the work that we do. To confirm, we are a 100 years old this year. We are involved in over 150 countries. Actually, we are in 150 countries. We have business organizations that are 159. And for purposes of local contextualization, the member here in South Africa is BUSA, Business Unity South Africa. So it's one of the 159 that we represent. Through this representation, we have over 50 million companies that we represent throughout the world. Then the employees are in the order of the hundreds of millions. We are one global employer community. So what do we do? What's our expertise? As per the next slide, in terms of advocacy, service, you will see that we are an entity that promotes and defends business interests at the United Nations, the International Labour Organization, as you've said, the G20, the B20, even the G7 lately, I think should be mentioned as well. Our vision is to create a sustainable economic environment around the world, promoting free enterprise that is fair and beneficial to both business and society. The next slide will show some pictures that we thought we should just add again to demonstrate the expanding influence that we have as an organization, engaging with a large number of stakeholders. And the next slide will demonstrate the number of partners that we work with. You'll see that the International Labour Organization, when the slide finally comes on, is on the extreme left. That's really the organization that we were born a year after. The International Labour Organization is 101 years old this year. You will see later, I have a slide talking about the Centenary Declaration, which was a declaration adopted last year when we celebrated 100 years of the ILO as well. You'll see in the next slide that as I get into the presentation, understanding the future of work, and understanding the mega trends that we have identified. There's technological advances
there's changing demographics, there's climate change, there's globalization. And the fifth mega trend, which came up from a survey that we did together with the ILO, changing business and opportunities for employer organizations, you'll see talk specifically about a shortage of skilled labor. So the question is, how are these future of work mega trends changing the landscape of the private sector? COVID-19 has exposed a lot of structural issues, pre-existing flaws that we will also integrate into this presentation as I move forward and identify those and see how we are to deal with those. So the next slide will entitled Impact of Mega Trends in the World of Work. The way we organize, I mean, listening to your video, Bakso, and also really the opening remarks that you made, a lot of people use a lot of different words, that this is an unprecedented time, that this has been a time of devastation. But I also do want to underline that this is also a time of great opportunity. It's a time of great recalibration. For me, I've said this consistently from the beginning of the pandemic and the lockdowns that we've experienced throughout the world. And I'll touch on those as we move along. But the way we organize our work, our working time, location, monitoring systems, the employment status of workers, definition of employer, evolution of skills needed by industry, skills gap shortages, mismatches, the employment rates, fear by workers that automation will displace jobs, the platform economy, workers pushing for international standards to regulate it. I mean, there's a huge push for this throughout the world. And, you know, for those of you who do not follow the work of the ILO, you will know that we're an entity or an organization that is steeped in the tradition of standards, that is steeped in the tradition of coming up with conventions to make sure that we are able to benchmark throughout the world using the membership base of 187 members that we have in the ILO. But of course, the role of the IOE is always to try and bring business sense to the table, is to bring business sense that says, guys, here's the reality. You know, we can't regulate everything because this is part of the problem with the world pre-COVID that has led to the challenges that we see of the structural flaws that now we are dealing with. So if you look at the next slide, you'll see that the dynamics of industrial relations and social dialogue between employers and workers are changing. Pressures on existing social protection systems, education and healthcare systems. Now, you know, there's a lot of things here to unpack. And sometimes I'm going to try and get off the presentation a little bit because all of you will get the presentation at the end of the session. But I think when we talk about social protection systems, you will be aware, some of you, that areas of informality that we found to be huge in the African continent and other continents like Latin America, for example, are a big problem, because when you talk about social protection systems and social security, you cannot be able to identify those people that ply their trade in that environment. And therefore, automatically, there is no ability to be able to protect those people because you don't know who they are. The latest of these that I think has demonstrated the very fallacious and flawed way in which we deal with matters of the economy and matters of ensuring that we continue to be sustainable relates to what I would refer to as app-based economies or app-based companies. You know, we know many of these, like the Airbnb, Uber, Lyft, and so on. Those are the app-based environments that we talk about. Now, the intriguing thing about the pandemic is that it revealed that all the drivers of the app-based companies, for example, whether it's Lyft or Bolt that we use a lot in South Africa that used to be Taxify, or Uber, those drivers, the millions of those drivers, are not identified and recognized by the system. And if they're not recognized by the system, it would mean that when there were interventions, business interventions that were being made by, in South Africa, for example, the Unemployed Insurance Fund, or any other similar fund throughout the world, they are unable to assist them as they would other businesses, as they would other companies, as they would SMEs. And if you take a very conservative factor of 3 and you multiply the millions of drivers by the amounts of the number of people that they support, whose livelihoods they're responsible for, you then have a threefold of those millions, which means those are people who are likely to go into poverty and go into the hunger numbers that we have, number stats all over the world, because they're also not identified, they are not recognized. So that means that when we talk about policy makers addressing issues linked to poverty, which is the next point on my slide, when we talk about human rights, when we talk about migration, informality, gender pay gap, inequalities, and the digital divide, all these need to be looked at holistically. All these need to be looked at from the point of view of the pragmatism required by the market and the pragmatism required by the world, not as per ideological kind of fixations that we've had in the past. And I mean, those of you who've listened to some of my talks in the past will know that I do stress the issue of ideological fetishes, ideological fixations that occasion huge flaws in the way that we deal with things from a policy point of view, policy, enactment and implementation. And some of these speeches, should you want to have a look at, are on the IOE website, and some of them are on YouTube if you go through those. But when you talk about rules and regulations to govern all of the above, and then colleagues want to talk about ILO standard setting agendas, we've got to be very careful as we move into the next slide as to how do we approach these? How do we approach these in the real world? Is the way to fix things by always throwing standards at life? We don't think so. We need to be very flexible and look at how we respond to things by using the right tools at the right time, using the right kind of partners, and collaborating together. And to elaborate on the survey that I mentioned earlier of changing business and opportunities for employer and business organizations, this was a survey done on 500 companies, inputs from employer organizations in all the regions. Again, I've mentioned that technological advances as the one mega trend. You'll see that of these people that were surveyed, technological advances were seen as the biggest disruptor of all. The challenge of locating, hiring, and retaining skilled workers is felt across borders, sectors, and pay grades. The concern is that it's becoming harder to recruit people with the skills needed. Bolivia, 60% of the participants said this. In Haiti, 53%, China, 47%, South Africa, 51%, and Malaysia, 63%. And as you go into the next slide, you will see that 60% stated that graduates were not adequately prepared for the current work that they were being looked at to perform. 78% indicated a need to update the education curriculum so that it is relevant for what is required. You will see that an increasing demand for high-skilled technical people and freelancers for critical skills such as problem solving, communication, and team building, although technical skills are still important. 70% recognize the positive effect of providing training and development to support the L and career transitioning that is involved. Now, I do want to also, just as we move to the next slide, to also just make a point, just in case I forget it as we proceed. So skills is critical. Skills will always be critical. And the tendency by companies, the tendency by countries is to cut back on the budgets that people use for skills transfer, for knowledge transfer, because there's a tendency to want to save costs. And that is one of the biggest mistakes we have in life. When you try to cut back on that which will make sure that you are able to recover quickly post the crisis, post the pandemic, you cannot do that because you cut that and then end up cutting into the bone. And skilling, reskilling, upskilling, A lot of people will talk very fashionably about managing the transition between different platforms, whether it's between the fourth and the fifth industrial revolution. And when I speak, I always say that for me, I'm not particularly concerned about the fourth and the fifth transition, fourth and the fifth industrial revolution. I'm more concerned about managing people across platforms. Whether it's the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, the seventh is not the important factor here. The important factor is we need to constantly and consistently reskill, upskill people and make sure that they are work ready and relevant for things as they happen, for work as it happens, and adjust as quickly as possible so that we carry them over with the transitions that happen. And I think it's also important to note that, you know, there is no way of managing a transition without doing this. It's not possible. You can't do it. When we look at the social issues facing South Africa, the COVID-19 has exacerbated pre-existing conditions. I mentioned earlier that the COVID has exposed a lot of pre-existing social and economic ills and social flaws, the way the economy is structured and so on, low economic growth that we've had for a very long time, informality that I've already mentioned, unemployment, especially unemployment of the youth, sitting at a staggering 30% officially now being the figure that is bandied about, child and forced labor, governance gaps, gender gaps, poverty, low social protection coverage, unsustainable rural-urban migration. Now, as we continue to the next slide, a few weeks ago, in my capacity as the chairman of Productivity South Africa, we launched this IMD Global Competitiveness Index. Now, the IMD is based, the Institute of Management Development is what it stands for, is based in Switzerland, in Lausanne, and partners with Productivity SA in putting together the information relating to the Global Competitiveness Index every year. Now, you know, you will see from that we have a very, very worrying situation where South Africa has dropped to number 59 out of the 63 countries that are surveyed. Now, last year we were 56. So this year we changed positions with Brazil. But if you look at the last 10 years as a trend, about 10 years ago, we were number 44. We moved to 48, we moved to 51, 52, 53, 56, and now we're at 59. The countries below us, I must tell you, are countries that, with very big respect, are not countries we should be proud to be above. Countries like Venezuela, for example, which is one of the biggest disappointments of the world at the moment, Venezuela. And South Africa sits just above those. And no one has listened in the past when we've told government. Government is very siloed and leaves productivity issues to the Department of Employment and Labor, when it should be a government-wide initiative, a government-wide propelled kind of way forward. And Productivity SA also looks after the competitiveness of the industry. And some people don't know that when you are thinking of retrenching, the first entity you need to be going to is Productivity SA. You need to be speaking to Productivity SA because that is the official entity in the country that is meant to intervene with its business and turnaround programs that it's got. And it's also the main entity in terms of the law that is supposed to contribute to the creation of jobs. But unfortunately, you have a situation where the left does not know what the right is doing in government. You have a situation where you'll hear that the economic cluster does one thing, but doesn't do it with Productivity SA. You have situations where you'll be told there's a job summit, which when we went to, I mentioned to some of the colleagues I spoke to, I think last year, the ICT summit, is that when it happened, the job summit, Productivity SA got in by literally breaking windows and banging the doors, and we forced our way in. And it was only once we were in there that they realized that, my God, they shouldn't be having those conversations without Productivity SA. So you also have a situation where, unfortunately, the presidency of this country is completely lost as well. They purport to be dealing with issues that relate to economic intervention, but actually they don't know what they're doing, with big respect. You'll find issues where we talk about having, I mean, our president was the chair of the Global Commission on the Future of Work, and served with me in a 28 body entity for something like 16 months. But when he came out of there, he came and appointed a commission here in South Africa on the future of work. But I think with respect, the commission here in South Africa tended to be focused, everything at least I've seen from there, tended to have this huge focus on artificial intelligence. And they were all very excited about what artificial intelligence can do or cannot do, and forgot that you don't do that without looking at the very obvious challenges we have today of informality, the very obvious challenges we have today of not being able to bridge the gap and manage the transition. And forgetting that whatever we do as we move forward, if we cannot marry what we do by way of human capital development, if we don't marry what we do there and marry it with the advancement in technology, remembering that technology is always going to advance, the progress of technology is never going to be stopped. And people must stop blaming technology for the problems when in fact it is them that are moving too slow and are not paying attention to what technology is telling us we should be doing for us to have continued relevance and to be able to have sustainability for our people, right? So because of that, people forget that that marriage is a critical marriage, the human capital development and technology marriage. Without that, we're never going to get anywhere. So anyway, we recommended that to try and change some of these things, that productivity should be placed at the core of everything we do. For example, some of you on this call may not be aware that October month is Productivity Month in this country. That's how it's been, I think, for the last 20 years now. And in our view, it should be supported and led by the president. It must be led from the front. The president must lead it. It is that important. If the president cannot, and I've tried for 2 years to tweet, because the president tweets a lot, Cyril and Ramaphosa and presidency, whatever it is. And I've said, Mr. President, for 2 years, you must lead and embrace this revolution called productivity. There's never been a response once, okay? But now we've officially asked them to pay attention to this and to work with us in ensuring that he leads from the front. We've also recommended that post-COVID strategic intervention, the document that we've put together be prioritized, that support for businesses is important for business leaders in the private sector by promoting productivity movement, economic transformation, and job creation. It's okay, you can move the slide. I've got my backup slides when you move far quicker than I am. So then we have a digital migration process that, you know, a lot of you on this call will know about, that in 2015, we had an undertaking to assist us with this. There was a pilot launch in the Free State in 2017. I haven't had any further reports on this. I'm not aware what is happening. And for me, this presents one of numerous missed opportunities by South Africa. It represents immense self-sabotage that South Africa has become very good at as a nation. And of course, I think, as I mentioned, South Africa, the colleagues that we have within the African continent that are part of this call should also be paying attention, because more often than not, what tends to be happening within the continent is that a lot of our colleagues tend to follow the same kind of regulatory policy enactment that South Africa sort of works on. You know, so I think, and there are some countries that are way ahead of South Africa in some areas, notably Kenya, notably Rwanda, and so on. But in the main, most of the countries in the continent tend to sort of watch what South Africa is doing. And also even within the productivity movement, the Office of Productivity that I chair in South Africa is also provides secretarial services for PAPA, for the Pan-African Productivity Association, which has a number of our African country sisters and brothers there as well. So as we move to the next slide, when you look at our response, from a COVID point of view as South Africa? Well, it's been a mixed bag, I think. Initially, I think we responded well to the health aspects. I was certainly in the country for the first time in 11 years that I've spent more than 10 days in a month in South Africa. I'm now on my 5th month. It's been very good for me to get back into my roots and get to see what South Africa is doing and how we're doing things. And it was, in many respects, a very, I wouldn't call it sobering. I think I would call it slightly depressing at most. And I'm not a person who's easily depressed. But whilst the health aspects were okay, and time will show whether we are winning the war from a health point of view, because we certainly were amongst the best responders to this at a point in time. But the economic response or lack thereof has been nothing short of disastrous, completely disastrous. So you will have heard that we've got a 4.3 billion loan from the IMF, which in my view, it will be wasted without proper direction and without understanding how to respond to the economic ills we have. And of course, the very vast network of corruption we have these days at home. And for us to change, we've got to do things differently. We've got to recognize very urgently that without productivity enhancement and policy interventions, the economy cannot recover and grow. The importance of understanding the difference between leadership and those in position of authority is so, so critical. You see, this is one of the things that has been exposed by the COVID. The pandemic has showed us that the people who've always pretended to lead actually were caught with their pants down because they do not have an idea on how to lead. They occupy positions of authority, but actually don't know how to lead. And I'm using pants down very, very consciously here because they're mostly men, not women, that are caught with the pants down, that have been exposed as hugely lacking in terms of leading. So importance of political will is something one cannot stress enough. There's a need to urgently understand and implement, understand what is happening and implement a new way of doing things. I mean, I always like as well to quote as we go into the next slide that, you know, the quotation that is often attributed to Einstein always comes to mind for me, that, you know, you cannot continuously do the same things over and over again and get outcomes that are disastrous, but hope for a different outcome. It's not possible. We can't do that. But somehow we just keep reinventing the wheel. We keep just, you know, recycling the old, the same. And we talk in these echo chambers with the same people going to the same rooms and somehow think that miraculously something is going to come out that's different. I mean, I don't know how that works unless you're suffering from huge egos that have lost touch completely, because that is the nature, I suppose, of egos and arrogance, in that it keeps you ignorant because you think you've got the game. And as we look at this slide, you'll see something I referred to earlier when I was talking about the celebration of the 100 years of the ILO, that we came up with something called a centenary declaration of the future of work. Now, some of you may wonder why we write their productivity mentioned 11 times. You know, it's because, you know, over the years, and when we say over the years, we mean the 100 years of the ILO, to talk about productivity in the ILO was almost a swear word. You were not encouraged to talk about productivity. And we were very clear as the employers, as we planned for the centenary celebration, that any declaration that does not have this productivity is not going to be worth the paper it's written on. So we pushed and we ended up having it not once, but 11 times. The important role of sustainable enterprises as generators of employment and promoters of innovation was also stressed. And in there, we also talked about the principal role of the private sector in the creation of employment, an enabling environment for entrepreneurship and sustainable enterprises. Those of you who are available tomorrow, Productivity SA is having a World Entrepreneurship Day kind of celebration. We'll have the Deputy Minister of Employment and Labor addressing us as a keynote speaker. And so we can see what South Africa has been doing from an entrepreneurship point of view. I also want to mention something that my colleagues asked me yesterday. I think if some of you here are women entrepreneurs, although we're looking for one, but it's okay even if we get, I mean, some of the participants that we have here, even if we have a few, we'll keep them on the list, but we are looking for women entrepreneurs to talk about their young businesses, startups that are thriving, that are doing well, that are highly innovative. We've got an event on the 3rd of September, the IOE has, on gender-related matters. And so please find me somehow on Twitter. I'm at @Tizoro1, or find me on LinkedIn, probably easier on Twitter, so that my colleagues can look at those names and we can choose one or two that will speak at our event on the 3rd of September. And then we can use that list for future conversations as well. Remembering that you'll have an audience of 159 countries, of business organizations in 150 countries, should you do that. Women entrepreneurs, not men, okay, just to stress. Diverse forms of work arrangements as well was a very big part of the declaration. And as we go to the next page, you'll see that in December of the same year, we then had an Abidjan declaration because we had the ILO Africa regional meeting, and it was decided there that to unleash Africa's potential for inclusive growth and shape the future of work with social justice, we needed to work with the things that we agreed. There was a need for structural transformation through value additions across various industries and improving productivity. Some of the people who spoke at that conference said, you know, there was a need to really just go back to the basics. There was a need to switch off all the computers and start them as fresh, because that is where the world has got to now. And of course, the COVID has showed that so well. And concrete actions for creating an enabling environment for sustainable businesses, enhance productivity growth, skills development, and remove barriers to formalization. The next slide is just to show some of you, no doubt you'll be aware of the United Nations SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. I think I'm not going to dwell on this at all, but I think it's important that everybody knows about this, that everybody always looks at it. Because, you know, we have a 2030 timeline to achieve the targets that were set. I can tell you we're not going to make them. We were not doing very well. We're not tracking very well on the majority of the SDGs pre-COVID. The COVID, of course, has made it a lot worse. But I think what is very important in our space, particularly of employment creation, is that you must always know about number 8. Number 8 deals with decent work and economic growth, absolutely critical. And then number 1 works with no poverty. Number 2 works with zero hunger. Now, it's important for you to understand just the following, even if you don't understand much of what is on there, that all 17 of these SDGs work together. They work in a very interconnected way. You cannot say, I'm going to focus on 3 and then leave the 14. It's just that every entity, every organization has a focus area. So we all need to collaborate, which is why 17 talks about partnerships for the goals, because it assumes that everybody will partner and everybody will collaborate. Something, big word that's been used during this pandemic is collaborate. Everybody says collaborate, collaborate. That's the new word. And these SDGs have always foreseen a situation where there is a collaboration. Next slide. The next slide really also reminds us of the 2063 African Union agenda, because the African Union has its target for 2063 to do certain things as you see them. You will see that at the top, we have a prosperous Africa, prosperous Africa. Okay, if you look at the whole kind of circle that you have at the top, is that at the bottom you have a strong and influential global player and partner, which is what Africa needs to be. But then it goes to development is people driven. And if you hear everything that people talk about is how we need to always remember that the human element is never forgotten. Hence, earlier I talked to you about the marriage between human capital development and technology. And then you can have a look at all of those at your own time, but you'll see that environmental sustainability and climate resilience is absolutely critical as well as part of ensuring an inclusive economic growth. Next slide. The next slide focuses on the recalibration and opportunities I mentioned earlier, provided by the COVID. That, you know, the time that we have now and the time that we shall have going forward, we need to use the time to improve teamwork and collaboration by all. We need to promote closer and stronger cooperation between public and private sector as well as cross-border. The IOE, together with ITUC being the largest trade union confederation in the world with offices in Brussels, you'll see that on the 23rd of March, as the COVID was starting to bite, we came up with a joint statement on how the COVID should be dealt with. And we called on all players in the multilateral environment to collaborate. We called on everybody, the IMF, the World Bank, and all UN agencies to work together and ensure that the necessary interventions were being made, but also to provide the necessary cash that is needed by the system, particularly by the developing countries. You would have heard earlier on, I mentioned that South Africa has already benefited with a 4.3 billion loan, a first for South Africa. And the whole thing was to also have very soft terms, you know, a little bit softer than usual in terms of the IMF. And I'm not going to get into the IMF politics that other people feel we should have or we shouldn't have. That's a discussion for a different day. But you'll see that on the 22nd of April, we also had a joint call for action in the garment industry. This was also done with ITUC. Some of you will have picked up that the countries like Bangladesh and others were in complete dire straits when the lockdowns happened, because the companies that place orders with them canceled orders to the tune of over $2 billion, which sent the economy of Bangladesh reeling. And also there were other remittance-based issues as well that had to be attended to. We work with the UN agencies, we work with UN resident coordinators, we work with the World Health Organization. I facilitated a conversation with Dr. Tedros of the World Health Organization sometime during that period, the ILO DG, Guy Ryder, and also the UN High Commissioner on human rights, Madame Michelle Bachelet, and many other entities that we work with, as well as the Global Apprenticeship Network. And you'll see on the right there is our amazing team. That's our amazing team in Geneva. There's a few faces that are not there, but in the main, it's a small, amazingly productive team. 3 of the people, as I said, on this call are part of that team. In fact, I don't see their faces on there. So I think there are some of the people that are not on that screen. But the whole thing is about being agile and being resilient. So as we go to the next slide, we've given you examples of agile companies, just for you to get an idea of what we're talking about. Companies like, you know, Impossible, that start allowing restaurants in Hong Kong to resell their burgers in bulk directly to customers. And Shake Shack and Blue Bottle Coffee have recently also rolled out new initiatives around the world to try to reach more customers as they spend more time at home. The next slide, you'll see that Twitter also announced that employees can work from home as long as they see fit. LVMH enabled its perfume factories to also produce hand sanitizers, you know, to expand on their lines because they could do that. Netflix used to mail DVDs to customers, but changed their business model to subscription for movies, shows on demand. The next slide. So becoming agile in the global market also involves having cross-border competition, which involves the importance of having a global mindset to be globally competitive as an organization. You know, I think an organization like DVR, what is being launched today, what you're launching today, is exactly the kind of mindset that I think you guys are exemplifying. It's exactly what we need to benchmark with all our young people. I think Baxo talked about a young business. I would add that it's a young business owned by young people. This is exactly what we need. We need more of that. We need to open up to young people and stop hogging the space as old people and pay attention to social trends. We must have digital presence. Consumers want convenience and want to have access to information on products and services. The internal structures, therefore, must align with strategy. We must understand the implications of the future of work, technology and digitization, climate change, changing demographics, globalization, the upskilling, reskilling, lifelong learning that I've mentioned previously. And the next slide continues to talk about this cross-border competition, the importance of assigning a focal point or small team to be experts and monitor social trends in your organization, encouraging discussions and conversations internally on various international topics, and attending international forums, which are now publicly broadcasted, e.g. in the United Nations live webcast, e-training from the OECD, news from the Asian Secretariat, IOE newsletters, etc. And I've got a slide there that says how South Africa can position itself. I like that slide because it comes from the Black Panther. It comes from La Pantera Negra, as they say in the Spanish, because, you know, it shows the possibilities of how you can thrive using technology and how you can thrive as communities if you're together, if you work together, something that we still need to learn a lot. So the next slide says, how does South Africa position itself? Some of the things I've already said to you, so really I'm going to go through them very quickly. By redirecting priorities and focusing resources on skills development, productivity, tackling informality, next slide. Nimble startups have a competitive edge and can seriously compete with multinational enterprises. The next slide. I picked this up on LinkedIn a few days ago by a young lady friend that I've come to know, Ms. Sonwabise Mzinyati, when she picked up on this, the leaky pipeline report in partnership with the South African Women in ICT, which found that diverse teams inspire product innovation and quality products, and that women are the highest percentage of users of most technology globally, as well as in South Africa. And given that it's Women's Month this month, this is the time to also highlight the importance of moving beyond rhetoric to action, the importance of stopping to just send messages that are, you know, paying lip service to women, but without actually doing these things in the real world. Women are also the most users of social media, equipment and appliances in homes, as well as business environments. However, and this is the big however, women are underrepresented in the IT industry, especially in design and development. Women are underrepresented in key sectors as professional, skilled workers and decision makers. You know, women must not just be seen as support, which is really what the hypocrisy that we are dealing with, and that we must stamp out with agency. This is also some of the things that have been revealed during the pandemic, is how badly we treat women generally. But I don't want to lose my train of thought, so I'll stop at that point. Next slide. So an important role of digital talent platforms is that they can provide access to jobs and opportunities for women. They're critical, as evidenced by the lockdowns, in creating employment, hope for the future, and confidence to the youth, providing economic opportunities not available before, improving entrepreneurial, digital, and social skills, promoting social inclusion through economic activities, encouraging innovation and investment, supporting creativity and innovativeness of citizens, strengthening SME ecosystems, as this offers access to talent and offers talent mobility and avoids migration issues. Next slide. So you'll see on the next slide that the skills, jobs, and demand that we've picked up from Business Tech South Africa surveys that were done is ICT specialists, engineers, artisans, and so on and so on. Those you can pick up by on your own when you get the slides. And ICT in Africa is that South Africa should, that's the next slide, has one of the largest ICT markets in Africa by value. and should be showing technological leadership in the mobile software field, security software and e-banking, and ICT is an increasingly important contributor to the South African GDP. And South Africa also, which is the next slide, is a very important regional hub. The next slide covers issues in education. I mean, I have a bias. I have to confess that this is a bias. I always have UWC because, you know, UWC, a lot of South Africans don't know the University of the Western Cape because it used to be a previously disadvantaged university. But people don't know that it's one of the universities that post-94 has become one of the leaders in the African continent, you know, #1 in astrophysics throughout the African continent, and of course having huge augmented reality and virtual reality programs and many other things. And they've just produced a DG magazine in celebration of excellent women in academic leadership. I think it's #7 or #8 in the rankings in South Africa, as well in the African continent. But of course, my bias is that that's the university I'm a professor at. So the next slide is these other important food for thought: the need for proactive policies in developing countries, attitudinal change which is needed regarding gender equality, child labor, LGBTI, women, and the youth generally. The youth consider flexibility at work and skills needed, the impact of labor laws on countries, problems with over-regulating the labor market, governance of digitization of work, different countries of different levels of development in the digital world. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is my last slide. And I took a little bit more than I thought I would, but Bakso had insisted that I needed to make sure that I cover as much as possible in the keynote address and make sure that I set the scene as much as possible. So you can move to the next slide. You'll see that it is a thank you. And so I will look forward to listening to other colleagues and taking questions later. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Prof. Really, really insightful presentation. And it really, lays the foundation of the next conversation. I've noted a couple of insights that have come out of your presentation, and I'll certainly be bringing those as we advance the conversation in our agenda this morning. And one of your biggest points that you talked about is this discussion about collaboration, and collaboration that extends partnerships between government entities, the enterprise. And firmly, as Devier, we firmly believe that enterprise is really at the center and the core engine of the Africa's economy, and particularly in enabling digital skills in the continent, and really opening a door for youth and particularly unemployed youth as a gateway to financial security. To that end, I'd like to bring up my next speaker, Takani, who heads up broad-based Black economic empowerment at Microsoft. She's the champion for advancement of skills development, youth participation, as well as SME development. But also importantly, representation of Black people and women in the workplace. Without any further ado, I'd like to bring Takani to give us, perspective on the power of partnerships for the digital economy in the world of work. Welcome, Takani. I think if Takani is speaking, she's on mute, but the floor is yours. let's just check. I just want to see if we can hear. Maybe there's an audio challenge. Takani, just give us an indication if you can hear us. Takani can't seem to unmute. Bokang and the technical team, can you guys have a look and see whether we can actually unmute on our side?
Hi, Takani is unmuted.
Okay. Takane, I think you can go ahead. Okay. It is for some reason, it won't unmute from Takane's view. Okay, Bokang, can you check again? All right, while we wait for Takani to resolve some of the technical, I'll ask my team to actually review and just see whether we can fix that for us. Some of the mega trends that are impacting work today is really, as highlighted in Professor Mtunzi's presentation, is one of the platform economy. So I'd like to bring up Bax to really share a demo of what we are about today, what we are launching today as a platform, why the platform itself, what it plans to benefit for young people who are unemployed, its role for digital skills, but more importantly, how do enterprises actually participate in this platform economy. So over to you, Bax, and give us insights into the demo. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Luba, and let me say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. Hopefully I am audible and colleagues can see my screen. Let me also thank Prof. Mdwaba for his keynote, very, very insightful keynote, and certainly something that is extremely exciting given the work that we as Devia are doing. I'm going to spend the next 10 minutes just showcasing what Devia has built, not only built, but what Devia has been doing. You would have heard from Luba earlier that we are in the space of focusing particularly on young people on the continent. We've done a lot of great work in imparting and growing digital skills in South Africa. Part of the key question that we've always asked ourselves is, we train people in AI, Prof. Ndwaba, AI, I'm mentioning deliberately, data science, cloud computing, and all these emerging technologies that are extremely powerful. But we've always asked ourselves the question, to what end? What happens after we've trained them? Particularly given that we operate in an environment where youth unemployment is extremely, extremely high. And what we've done here is we've complemented our training programs that we'll very briefly touch on just now with this talent platform. And the whole purpose behind this talent platform is to really ensure that we are able to find an efficient way, because we do know and we do get feedback from employers globally that they are indeed looking for these new age skills. So if they are looking for them, how can we find an efficient way of ensuring that we can connect those that acquire these skills directly to where the opportunities are, but not only limit it locally here in South Africa on the African continent, but make sure that that opportunity is a global opportunity, because work now can be conducted from anywhere. The issue of space and time really becomes a lot more fluid as we enter into these new norms of how work is conducted. So what you see here in front of you is an employer view. We do have employers that are on the platform, and we invite yourselves as employers and others that may be looking for these skills to really come and participate and find these skills. Now, what happens when employers actually sign up on the platform? And we'll talk about the sign-up process just now. But one of the key aspects is there are opportunities that employers have. Whether these opportunities are full-time jobs, part-time or contract jobs, or internships, doesn't really matter. What matters more is, are there opportunities to connect potential employers with this talent? One of the key features of this is to really allow potential employers to expand in great detail on these opportunities that they may have and describe it. Is it a job? Is it an internship? Or is it something slightly different? Of course, I must express here that the talent that is on this platform, and currently we have over 400 of these highly trained individuals, mostly young people on the platform. The talent you will find on this platform is talent that has been trained through our programs. So as Devia, we are very committed to ensure that we reinforce this virtuous cycle of training and finding opportunities. Hence, unfortunately, we do not accept candidates that we have not trained onto the platform. So the focus here is around digital skills. And the digital skills through the digital programs that we actually run are represented in how employers can then come and define exactly what it is that they are looking for. There's flexibility, of course, here in signing up and posting job opportunities to ensure that the focus is not only on these technical and hard skills, but we also encourage a view in their requirements of what we call power skills. Some people may call these soft skills, but we prefer to call them power skills. Once these opportunities are submitted on our platform by potential employers, it's only then that potential employers have the opportunity to then come and see the talent. And I must stress here that we've taken a great deal, researched, spoke to various people, and really sought expertise to really advise us on how to make this efficient. And I do want to make the point that we are not a labor broker. And there are two things that are critical that I must point out. The first one is that potential employers at their own, based on their own requirement, can come and search and limit the search as they please, whether it is by a specific role that they are looking for or a location or salary band. It is up to them how they would limit the search in the database that we have. So Devia plays no role in determining who potential employers actually see and who they not see. And I think the second thing that I must point out is that for potential employers to actually find talent on our platform, there are no fees that are paid to Devia. So as far as we are concerned, this is a free service. Hence, we don't regard ourselves as a labor broker, but we are extremely committed to ensuring that this future and emerging job market becomes as efficient as possible. And we will keep on pushing the boundaries to ensure that we achieve that at scale. So here is, and these are actual profiles of individuals that we've trained that are sitting on the platform. They themselves, after a series of workshops that we run with these individuals, have created their own professional profiles and have taken the time to actually post these based on the work, their background, their experience, project work that they have done, for the last year or so. So here is an example of what potential employers then get to see on the platform. And you will see a lot of these individuals. And again, this is a emerging and growing phenomena in South Africa, actually do have tertiary qualifications. Some of them have tertiary qualifications that would be considered as really scarce skills, BSc in physics and mathematics. But what we do find is we find two things. One, we find that there's a growing number of these individuals that struggle to find employment. But number two, there's also a growing number of these individuals that feel that they need something extra. They need something different to build a base from which to grow their careers. Hence, they end up on our platform and our training programs. So let me give a view of what a more detailed profile might actually look like. So it might look like this, showing work experience, showing skills that the individual has actually acquired. And one of the things that we are really big on is we know that potential employers are really more concerned about what individuals can do, not a badge that says, I've done data science or I've done cloud computing. So one of the things that we encourage is a portfolio of evidence of work that these individuals would have done. So by way of example, we do promote things like GitHub, where these individuals can actually show and say to potential employers that here is the work that I've done, here is the code that I've written, here are the projects that I've actually done and the problems that I've actually solved. So here's a perfect example of what you are able to find on this specific platform. Of course, once the potential employers see what they like, they can then add these candidates to their favorite list. And from this favorite list, they can then request to interview these individuals. These interviews generate an email that goes to the potential employer. It also pings Devier, and it also is sent to the candidate themselves, and the candidate and the potential employer can arrange a suitable time in which to discuss and conduct the interview. We in the background will always assist the candidate to ensure that we continuously prep them for these interviews so that they are able to secure this work. So an interview list of candidates is generated. One can cancel at any specific point in time should they wish to do so. I do want to touch very briefly on what the view for the talent may actually look like on the other side. And this is what we are able to see as talent and not the potential employer, where one can at any point update their profile and add more details as they improve and pick up more skills through other programs that we provide, or enhance their portfolio of evidence that will, of course, make their profiles a lot more attractive. But one of the key features that we also have to encourage our talent is to ensure that they've got visibility of all jobs that are actually posted by potential employers, so that they get to understand that there is actually a demand side to this platform. So this visibility is something that is extremely, extremely important. By way of example, here is a job post, and all of this is real, of a company looking for a developer in Cape Town, or potentially working remotely, and these are the specific skills that they are actually looking for. So this is a view that we are also able to get in as far as the candidate view is concerned. I want to touch on just two more things. One is in the sign up process, when one enters the platform for the first time. Of course, we do have terms and conditions. We've got a privacy policy, but more importantly, there are actions within our company to ensure that that privacy policy is real and the activities behind it are actually real. So all of these are available to individuals that actually sign up. Then one more thing that I do want to share is, just like any true platform, it's not a website, it's a platform that has multiple aspects, and it does have a back end as well. And I do want to just very quickly touch on one specific point. So all the talent profiles that are sit in the database, and individuals that sign up, because this is internet facing, and I've mentioned that not everyone can participate in this, because we want to make sure that we put profiles up of individuals that we can vouch for. And we feel that we can vouch for individuals when they've gone through our programs, because we understand those programs. Now, there is a step where once someone signs up, it does go into the back end so that it goes through a review process. And one of the key things that we check is whether this individual has participated in training programs before under Devia. And of course, we get to review the profile to ensure that it's appropriate, but more importantly, to offer assistance so that the profiles themselves are good quality profiles. And only then are we then able to accept and approve the profile, which will appear in the front end. So that really is what we have built. And again, just making sure that this virtuous cycle is something that is reinforced. We always want to make sure that it is only candidates that have gone through our various courses. And we do have courses that are open for applications. These courses are free for young people, and they are sponsored by various partners, such as Naspers Labs, and of course our big partner. And I do hope that Takani's audio can be sorted out so that she can share some of the things that we are doing, and Microsoft being one of our strategic partners. And there are other organizations that we continue to talk to ensure that this virtuous cycle of training and work opportunity is something that we can do at scale, and eventually across the continent and at a global level. Let me stop there and thank you very much for everyone for listening. And thank you, Luba. I'll hand back to you.
Thank you, Bax. I'm sure there's going to be a couple of questions, particularly regarding the platform, how to sign up, and hopefully that will also spare some action in as far as people signing up and employers looking for young talent over there. Now, I'd like to jump quickly, because I'm conscious of time, to Takani. Let's see if we can get her online. I believe all the technical issues now have been resolved. Let's try again. Bokang, can we go back to Takani's presentation, where Takani really will be giving us insights into this power of partnerships for the digital economy and the world of work, and really, making sure that we can assist young people meet the demands of this digital future. Takani, let's try again. Can you try and unmute again? Just check if it's also the mic or headphones, just to ensure that. Cool. I think we still have a challenge in terms of audio. I can't pick it up on my side. Yeah, unmuted, still not coming through. So maybe, Bokang, you can just bring me back. I do want to talk about, some of the talent that has come through our programs. Bex has talked exhaustively about, some of the young people that we've trained. And over the past year, as a company, we've trained over 1,500 young people across the continent. Yes. I thought there was a question. My apologies.
So let me just call you on WhatsApp.
Bex, can I mute you?
Mute.
Yeah. All right, cool. So we've trained over 1,500 young people in various skills, really, data science, cloud computing, software development, and many other domains from a skills point of view. And young people coming from different walks of life, and mostly here in South Africa, of course. And I just wanted to give you a perspective of some of, young people who've really excelled in our programs. Sonabi is a graduate to be a BSc in computer science from Rhodes University, from the Eastern Cape. He now has completed a data science program, also a full year program that we ran, where they learn skills in R, Python, machine learning, data, big data, and Hadoop. And these are more in-demand skills. Hlehle Tembogutla on the right, she now works at Devier, and she was part of the team that were virtual interns doing data analytics work in the Eastern Cape government department in combating COVID-19. Next slide. So these are really just giving testimonials and views of young people. Bex spoke about young people who, already have degrees. Given he's a mathematician with BSc in honors from Wits University, who has also completed our data science and AI program, and now works at New Dawn Technologies, who's just recently started his career over there. Also, Komotso is also a mathematician, BSc mathematician from University of Venda. Also now started his career at Venda. So at Avis, apologies. So we have young, talented African young people who, really had difficulty finding opportunities, and having gone through our programs, they've now been able to do so. Yeah, next slide. I just want to maybe quickly, give you a perspective. Takalani Mashaba, a data scientist as well. He now has joined the Zindi platform, which is really a community of data scientists in Africa to solve problems in the continent. Unati, who is a BSc graduate as well, has been working at the Shadi Times magazine in Bangalore, India, as an intern for the past 3 months, and also looking for work opportunities. Move on to the next one. Nomfundo, and you'll see in the next slide, Nomfundo have been virtual interns over the past 2-3 months, working on the African platform called Combat COVID-19.Africa. And this is really a platform of innovation in the continent. that is meant to really, you know, enable different parts of the continent to collaborate in curbing the spread of COVID-19. They were responsible for building certain components of the platform and building a database which now is able to collaborate across the continent. Working with, of course, the next slide is Garabo. Garabo is one of the, you know, geniuses who've come out of this program. Also, you know, AI, he's an AI specialist. He now recently spoke at the AI Dialogue, which was launched here in South Africa. You will see some of the accomplishments that he has done. A really true, you know, star, you know, in the work of artificial intelligence and data. If you move on to the next slide, I just want to maybe cover two more. Yeah, you know, this young chap from a village in Kumbu, very, very quiet, very unassuming, but he's a mathematician from Wits who also couldn't find work. He's worked now at social development as a virtual intern. You know, and sometimes you can hear the chickens when he's locked in and the sheep from his home. So Thobela is one of our young, bright stars on the platform. And maybe I'll talk about one more who is also on our platform from Usvuyile Mene. You know, a software developer at heart and is already building solutions for himself and looking to export some of those solutions into the continent. So I just wanted to give a little bit of perspective and some of the talent testimonials of young people. If you look at these quotes that you see, these are quotes as part of their work readiness. These were 6-word stories as they reflected back in completing some of the programs that we've worked on. They really, you know, came up with, you know, these 6-word stories that represented themselves in as far as the work that they had completed and their personal achievements that they had done over the course of time. So that's talent testimonials, and we look forward to all of you signing up, and hopefully the young people who are on the call will also get an opportunity to actually sign up on our free courses that are sponsored by our various partners in order then to advance their careers and hopefully put them at an opportunity to job opportunities in the future. Now, I do want to maybe see if Takane, are you able to connect again? Yes, I heard something.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. There was a bit of background noise, but you certainly you're audible on my side.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you may have two devices set up at the same time. Yeah, you've sort of gone faint now. We could hear you the first time around.
And can you hear me now?
Try again. It's coming.
And now?
Much better, thank you. There's a bit of background. I don't know if there's another device that is also connected.
Yeah.
Yeah, much better. I think that's a lot better.
Okay.
Brilliant.
Great. Morning, everybody, and sorry for the technical difficulties. Could I have the first slide, please?
Yeah, you can go on, put on the first slide.
please. Thank you. So we face numerous challenges in South Africa, and I'm pretty sure all of you, heard the Prof talking about the different challenges that we face. Sorry, if you could just give me 2 seconds, I just want to sort out the feedback.
That's fine.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you, Takani. There is a bit of feedback, I must say.
Go.
Okay. So we face numerous challenges in South Africa that need redress, innovation, a growth mindset in order to fix. So that we can have a truly inclusive economy for all. We have a staggering unemployment problem. And most of those unemployed people are youth, as the Prof said. So I'll actually be quite brief because I think a lot of what I wanted to say actually was covered by the Prof. But this is just, setting the scene. So we also have a large majority of the unemployed people are youth who are either unable to speak due to financial constraints or have studied and then are unable to find employment due to the fact that, private sector is what it is and big corporates can only absorb so many people. So the programs that we run are generally to address this issue. Next slide, please. Hold on for 2 seconds, please. Sorry about that. So at Microsoft, we believe that challenging times allow you to basically find an opportunity to help fix and help develop the kind of world you want to live in. So Brad Smith, the president of Microsoft, essentially said, when your technology changes the world, then you bear the responsibility to help address the world that you have helped to create and accept greater responsibility for the future. And that's essentially what we try to do at Microsoft. But obviously we can't do this alone. Next slide, please. So the kind of problems we are trying to solve. Number one, COVID has created a global economic crisis. It's caused millions of people to lose their jobs. It's caused a lot of businesses to go under in a very short space of time. So we obviously have an economic crisis that has been created, as well as a rising unemployment crisis. That's also, part of the problem. And as people return to work, both old and new jobs will require digital skills. Many jobs will continue to be remote for the foreseeable future. For example, at Microsoft, we have, since March, have still not returned to work. And based on, how South Africa is able to respond to the COVID crisis, we might continue to work from home. But this obviously means that different skills are needed, different ways of working are needed as well. There's obviously, this creates a skilling challenge for individuals as well as employers. People who've lost their jobs will need to gain additional digital skills in order to find new jobs. And employers will probably have to upskill current employees or hire more digital skills because that is just the world we're moving in. And as Prof also alluded to, this will mean that there will be new partnerships that are necessary. We're going to have to rethink how we do a lot of things and possibly work together because, for example, Microsoft may be able to achieve one thing, but the avenues that we might be too big and not agile enough to move in, which is why we partner. Next slide, please. The next slide just is taken from LinkedIn. LinkedIn Learning. LinkedIn was purchased by Microsoft, and LinkedIn. What we did here was just a survey to see what kind of skills are actually required, or what people are applying for, and what what companies are looking for employment. And as you can see, software engineering far exceeds what the other kind of jobs that are required. So digital skills are incredibly important. The world is changing quite rapidly, I suppose, as all of us know. The other thing that COVID made very apparent was that business models have had to change as well. The way companies sell to their clients had to change, especially in South Africa during severe lockdown conditions. A lot of companies had to change their operating models in order to stay afloat. Technology is very much at the center of this change that we see, and digital skills are essential for employability and for driving innovation and economic growth in South Africa. As such, skills development has become a core pillar and focus for investment in South Africa, particularly from a Microsoft point of view. And over the past year, we have upskilled more than 83,000 learners and 1,900 educators, across different programs. But 2 years ago, what we did do differently is we partnered with Vivier, and we basically launched a number of learning interventions. Slide, please. Now, this slide is one of the very first programs that we ran. It was the data science program that we ran with Vivier. Vivier was our learning partner, and we basically launched it at our Microsoft offices. We're very, very proud of this program, and what come out of this program, I think when Max was taking you through the demo of the talent platform, is a lot of those learners were actually on the platform, and many of the learners have been absorbed into jobs, which is also very important because we all know that in South Africa, a lot of companies, when they do BEE, will do skills development, but not taking into account employability, and making sure that the skills are relevant and that the young people we empower can actually then continue to work and contribute to the economy. So this is our flagship podcast. When we started, we were very, very proud of that. We've subsequently done numerous learnerships, covering different 4IR skills, and we do that because, like we said, the world is changing very rapidly. There's skills we need today and tomorrow that we currently do not have in the market. And through this particular partnership, we've been able to make sure youth in South Africa are given access to those skills and are looked after while they do that. And then obviously, great about this launch is that employability component will become very apparent when they use the platform and are then able to find gainful employment. Next slide, please. The next slide just depicts one of our other partnerships with Vivier. Vivier owned IP on this because they came up with the idea, but it was basically mobile labs. There were 6 of them. They are outfitted to ensure that they can run off the grid 100%. They're air conditioned, and basically this was to enable learners in remote areas to ensure that they also get to participate in this economy and that no one's left behind. And we're very proud of this initiative, and we definitely look to deploy more and more of these containers so that we can ensure that the whole of South Africa is covered. And that is from my side. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Takane. Nice and brief. I know we've certainly crossed over the time. I think on behalf of Devi, I think we are so ever grateful to the contribution Microsoft has made in really enabling these programs to be made available for young people, and not only for these programs to be made available in the obvious cities where there's infrastructure, such as Johannesburg, Cape Town, and KZN. We've actually gone out and promoted programs in artificial intelligence right as far as Polokwane. We've had serious infrastructure challenges. We are deep roots in the Eastern Cape, where we have put mobile labs, if you've put it there, where we're running off the grid. Where connectivity is a massive challenge because young people have to really do projects that require labs in various streams of courses that they run. So we are forever grateful for the partnership, and we think many companies can really emulate the work that you're doing to really make this impact much greater than what it is today. So without any further ado, I know we are towards the end of our program. I do want to give an opportunity to ask questions. I see there are 3 questions that are in the group, which we will pose to the panel. If there are further questions, please do not hesitate to actually put those questions through for us in order for us to see whether we can respond. I'll jump straight into the question, the ones that are here, and I think this one will be directed to Prof. Mdwaba, where Khoba says Devier played and still is playing an important role in helping us to get relevant skills to be productive in this revolution. My question is, how relevant and significant data science is in the International Labour Organization and the IOE? Prof, can I give that to you?
Hi, Luba. That question was answered by Prof. I can quickly maybe read his answer. But Khoba's question was answered, where the Prof says the IOE bases its policy recommendations on labor stats, surveys, data from Bretton Woods institutions, World Economic Forum, and other solid data institutions. They also get strong feedback from the 159 members and 150 countries, and have rich information from businesses on the ground. So they continuously analyze global social trends, and they do their own research within the limited capacity that they have, which is that team that Prof spoke about in his presentation, and base recommendations on all this work that they do, taking into account the different levels of development. So that was the answer to that question.
Great, thank you, Bax. There's a question from Stolile, and I think this is for you, Bax. I might have missed this. Does the talent platform accommodate everyone who would like to register their profiles, or only talent that were part of the Devier skills programs?
Thank you, Lubs, and thank you, Stolile, for the question. The answer is, the talent platform is open for those candidates that have gone through one or more Devier training programs. But I would really encourage Stolile, if he hasn't already done so, we've got a number of programs that are open for applications, which are free to you, sponsored by NASPERS Labs, that you are more than welcome to apply for, so that you can also participate if there's an interest on your side. Thank you.
Yes, thanks, Bax. So there's lots of software development programs, programs in Angular, there's programs in data engineering, and these are shorter programs that we've got. We've got a program in Microsoft Azure, in cloud computing. So if you have an interest, those courses are still available for one to sign up and go and complete the courses. Yeah, so I think those are the questions. I don't see any further questions unless I've missed something. I'd like to thank you all for making the time to be with us today and really be part of this crucial conversation, particularly as we begin to enter the world of the new normal. Because certainly, as I did in my intro, life will not be the same again. And I hear people talk about post-COVID. I think we are certainly in for new times, but certainly new opportunities where, you know, we have to embrace these challenges of the changing nature of work and how we perceive and the mindset about work in this new digital era. And I think one of the most profound insights that I got out of Prof is that we have to develop this people-driven society because we already know through statistics already that 60% of graduates out of the ILO findings is that graduates are not adequately prepared for the current work and the future of work. And almost 78% are needing to actually have to upgrade their skills, particularly as it relates to the education curriculum. So for me, those are profound statements if we are really going to be productive citizens and develop new solutions to propel the African continent and build the sort of capability and capacity that is needed for us to be part and compete in this digital and global economy. So on my side, I really want to thank you for your time and spending time with us today. Please do follow us on at Davies SA on Twitter. We are also on Facebook and LinkedIn. And we will share all of those links in the subsequent emails that we will send. I do want to maybe hand over to Bax, my colleague, to maybe say a few words before we all part.
Thank you, Luba. Let me echo your thanks to everyone for attending and participating in this. The last thing that I do want to say is, you know, our commitment as Devia to all of you is that we will keep on pushing. We will keep on pushing the boundaries because we think that this issue of employment and digital skills together is something that is critical and can play a critical role in really resolving some of the deep-rooted societal issues that we face. Of course, we can't do it alone. We need all of you, we need other partners, and we need to work together to ensure that we are well coordinated in addressing these issues on our continent. We've received some great feedback already from some of the employers, and the features of our platform are going to be refined as soon as tomorrow. We're going to be releasing some new features to enable direct scheduling of interviews on the platform by employers and candidates directly, but we'll be doing other things later on as well. So thank you very much again to all of you. We are truly humbled and excited to work with you going forward. Thank you, have a great day, and let's get to work.
Thank you, Bax. Cheers, guys. Thanks, everybody.